Roger, roger.
War continues to break out on all fronts. The secret romance between Anakin and Padme faces its biggest test yet. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Republic forces, led by Jedi Masters Obiwan Kenobi and Mundi, return to Geonosis to eliminate the separatist threat once and for all. Will Anakin and Padme's relationship survive? Will the Republic's invasion succeed? Is this the moment when Luke and Leia were conceived? Answers to all of this and much more on this week's episode of Clone Cast.
I don't know. I'm split this week. I'm very split this
You're
week.
split? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
I feel like we had one ridiculously good episode
Okay.
and then one ridiculously bad episode.
Okay. So I kind of feel the same way.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that the second one was the ridiculously good one.
How awkward would it be if I was like, no, the first one?
Well, here's the thing. I actually kind of like the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, but I guess when you compare it to the second one, it's just like...
Yeah.
oof.
I liked it until I saw the second one, and I was like, that first one was nowhere near as good as the second one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what are we on? Episode 4, Season 2, Episode 4, Senate Spy?
Yeah, keeping up with the Skywalkers.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
This was
We hung out a couple weeks ago, and I gave you my dirty secret that I am a Kardashian fan.
You
And
did.
This felt like an episode of the Kardashians to me, man.
Did it really?
It did. It did. It felt with love,
Okay.
intrigue, drama, spite.
Mm.
Yeah.
It did have all of that. It
did.
did have
Yeah.
all of that. So, yeah, this was definitely a episode where I feel like we didn't get to see a lot of this in the movies. So it was
Mhm.
kind of nice seeing it in something else that's still Star Wars related. So, I mean, we open up with Anakin coming home, as it were, meeting his girl Padme, trying to put on the moves, if you will.
Trying to make sure we get Luke and Leia in the sequels. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Do you think this was it? Do you think this was the episode or the moment where they were conceived?
This very moment, this episode. Oof, I actually never I never even thought about that, but yeah. You know what? I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the moment.
So I loved that they told C-3PO to basically skedaddle.
Yeah.
So they could be alone. And he
Yeah.
was just like, what do you mean? I don't understand what's going on. Like, he just was completely clueless.
Yeah, again, proving that he's like the worst character in the entire Star Wars universe.
But no, it was sweet. I mean, we had this little romantic scene where Padme is super excited to see Anakin, and he calls it home, and she's all excited about that. And
Mm-hmm.
She makes a reference that, like, it's a special occasion because it was some sort of bread or something she made or had or something like that. And she's like, I was saving it for a special occasion. And he's like, an evening alone with you. I couldn't imagine a better occasion.
Hey, yo.
Dang, man.
Anakin.
Anakin putting on the moves.
Yeah. And then it all just plummets because Anakin, as smooth as he is, man, he is a jealous lover. And I think we learned that in this episode. So the overarching story that I thought was kind of cool about this episode is like the Jedi are like, yo, there's clearly people in the Senate that are working with the Trade Federation. And they suspect that Senator Clovis is working with the separatists. And they approached Padme in the past and she's like, nah, I'm good. And so they want Anakin and they basically bring him in and they're like, yo, get your girl in line. Get your girl in line.
And that was a very interesting scene for me because I was like, I found it interesting that Yoda had essentially already asked her to be a spy and she refused.
Yeah.
And so the next logical step for them was to just get Anakin to convince her to be a spy anyways. Like, it kind of shows you, and I was trying to figure out the right word, and maybe you can help me out, but I didn't want to say that the Jedi were corrupt, but it was just they were so pushy, and they just didn't really care what she actually wanted. They were just more caring about the interest of themselves.
Yeah, it was. I kind of had a similar reaction to it because I was like, "This is the moment where I realized that the Jedi Order why it fell." Right? Like you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Oh, they're definitely not following rules right now." Like
they
they're
do
involved
not
with like
care.
spies and espionage, and it's just like, "Oh, like guys, what are we doing here?" But there's this really funny scene where like they're in the I guess the Senate chambers, and
Yeah.
like Padme and Anakin are having this entire thing, and Anakin's like, "Well, now you're definitely not going on it," and Padme's just like, "Nope, you tell me I'm not doing it, and I'm doing it now," and I'm just like, "Jesus, dude, like you
I was like,
captured a
what?
marriage perfectly."
That's what I was saying. I was like, was she my wife? I was like, my gosh, like, and that's what I wonder too is, did Anakin truly not want her to be a spy,
Mm,
or did he make it seem like I will not allow you to go, so that way she would go? Like, was he? Because I mean, he was tasked with making sure she becomes the spy. So I'm like, was this like his way of doing like a Jedi mind trick, knowing how she is and
damn,
if she's
dude, that's
told what to
that's
do?
a fan theory that you flipped it on the head. I didn't
I
even
just
think about that.
I wasn't sure
Like,
because I'm
what if
like,
Anakin was manipulating her?
that's what I'm saying. Was he manipulating, or did he truly not want her to be a spy?
Do you think Padme is weak-minded enough to fall for Jedi mind tricks?
Ooh, I want to say no,
Okay.
but again, what if Anakin was completely doing that? You know what I mean?
It changes
Because
everything.
she really didn't base off anything except for, excuse me,
Yeah.
you're gonna tell me I'm not going? I'm gonna go. I've decided I'm gonna go because you said I'm not going to. Like,
She also fell for like Palpatine. When Palpatine was like just a
yeah.
senator, she didn't suspect anything. So I assume he would be like doing Jedi mind tricks on her and stuff. But
You know what I thought was funny was they're having this like really secret spy conversation in the middle of this like giant Senate hall in front of all these people
mhm.
in like a super echoey place.
Oh yeah, and there's like other people floating around in the background. Yeah.
I was like, all right, I guess you guys just aren't having any sense of secrecy here about you becoming
Again,
a
like
spy.
the Jedi Order picked literally the worst person to be a spy. Like, yeah.
But
The other
yeah, we
thing that was
got.
kind of funny was in the beginning of the episode, they were like, Anakin's wife, Padme. And I was like, whoa, whoa. We're just throwing that out there that other people know that now. But I guess technically that was the end of Clone Wars, right? Or the Attack of the Clones.
It was the end of Attack of the Clones. They got married, so I'm assuming all of this happens
Yeah.
afterwards. So yeah, I mean they are married in
Yeah.
secret. In secret.
Yeah, so Padme agrees to be a spy and go spy on Clovis, and we find out that like
No, no, no.
not only does she
She
have
doesn't
like
agree. She decides she's going to be
oh,
a spy.
that's true. It's her decision. Her
It's
decision.
her decision.
So she goes to the Jedi Order and she's like, I'm going to do this. And Mace Windu's like, are you sure? Like with your past? And Anakin's is like, what are we talking
Whoa,
about
what?
here? I thought they were just friends. Like,
Well, even before that, he was like, "Who's this Clovis guy?" And she's like, "Nobody." And he's like, "No, what do you mean nobody? Like, do you know?" No. And then like the next scene was like, "Are you guys sure?" Like everybody knew that they were together and were close except for Anakin. And then
Yeah.
he was just like, "What the f?" Like,
yeah,
girl.
such an awkward situation.
She was like, "I will do whatever's necessary to get this information." And I was like, "Whoa."
Whoa, Padme.
Anakin's like, "I will do whatever is necessary to protect her."
Yeah, this ain't happening.
So let me. So I mean, the next scene we see Senator Clovis. Okay,
Yes, charming
and
gentleman.
Padme, dude. That's what I'm saying. He was
Gold face
Mr.
paint. Yeah,
He was Mr. Rico Suave trying to put
Yeah.
the moves on Padme.
yeah. There was a line where he dropped where she's like, "I hope it'll be just like old times." He's like, "No, it'll be better than old times."
That's I literally
And I was
wrote
like,
that down. I was like, dang, dude. He's like, I'm hoping it'll be better than old times. I'm like, oh snap. And then Anakin's there just sitting there like, you mother. So
One of
angry.
the moments I laughed absolutely the hardest at was when they're walking to Padme's ship.
Mhm.
And then like they're getting on, and then like Anakin's just standing there in disguise, and I was like, nobody recognizes that dude. Like, nobody.
Anakin Skywalker? No?
Possibly the most famous Jedi in the galaxy right now, The dude who literally like started the Clone Wars, and nobody knows that's him.
Not a one. Okay. All right. Got it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if you were Anakin, some dude was trying to get real fresh with your girl, what you doing?
I don't know. Is she supposed to be a spy? Is she supposed to be doing this mission? Like exact same
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah, she's supposed to be doing this mission.
I mean, I gotta trust her.
I am Jedi whooping that ass.
Really?
Is what I'm. Screw the mission. Get your little grubby paws off my girl, Senator
Wow.
Clover.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think like if the fate of the galaxy is in hand.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean,
Well-
I get why he's jealous. I 100% get why he's jealous. I would have an issue with the same thing, but at the same time, you know, what was the line they kept throwing around a million times in this episode? It's like you got to do what's good for the mission or something like that. So it's-
yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, they said it so many times.
yeah.
The I don't want to say the mission comes first, but the something.
You know what was something I really didn't like about this episode? And because it just didn't feel Star Wars to me, which is
Okay.
kind of weird to say, but like they get onto this planet where the Trade Federation are, they get off the ship, Clovis and Padme are getting off, and then we have like these overly sexualized droids, like these female droids that just have like massive breasts, and I'm just like, I was like, what am I watching? Austin Powers right now? Like I felt like I was seeing like
Some
fembots.
fembots.
Yeah. It was such like it just didn't. No,
Okay.
What it was perfectly. It was like the droids from Spaceballs. Remember the
Yeah,
female-
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it looked
yeah.
like. I was just like, that just doesn't feel Star Wars. Like I don't know.
That's weird to think of. We got like, sex dolls, in real life. Star Wars, is that like their version? Like a lonely guy just
Bro, it's completely off topic. In Houston, so I live in Texas. In Houston, they shut down a sex bot brothel. There was a building
What?
that had robots that you could literally, pardon my French kids, you could fornicate with,
No.
and they shut it down. And I was like, I don't know how you have the right to shut that down. Like that's just weird. Like,
That's
I mean,
bizarre.
I guess it's like from a health code situation, but at the same time, I'm just like, if a guy wants to do it, I don't know.
These robots self-cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yikes, man.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So that was Houston, Texas, home
Maybe-
of robot brothels
Maybe we're closer to Star Wars than we
and
thought.
baseball teams that can't win unless they cheat.
Shots fired.
That'll be the
Go
TikTok.
D-backs. Go D-backs.
Yeah, but anyway, so we get to this planet, and Clovis is definitely the bad guy. He's meeting with the Trade Federation, and again, they just have these really racist accents of just like, "You brought Padme here," and it's just like, I'm like, God, you can't do that, dude. It's
I loved his name.
2024. What was
Lot
his name
Dot?
again?
Lot Dot.
Yeah.
What an odd name.
Yeah.
Lot Dot.
Lot Dot.
Sounds like Mars Attacks.
Lot
Yeah.
Dot. I'm going to poison Padme.
Which, again, like, that part was odd too, because he's like, hey, let's toast to this. And then he like drinks, and then he goes, and then hands it to her. Like, if
Yeah.
somebody did that to a cup and handed it to me, I'd be like, excuse me, sir, what did you just do there?
Just do? Or he's like, is your security guard Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah.
Like, no
He
one
knows. That
Like-
guy's got to know. Oh,
that
man.
kid blew up our spaceship.
He
No
did.
one ever said it.
He
Like
was
it's
10.
just. But to your point, yeah, the weird little thumb move. Like, I don't know.
He did something. I mean, it's like he twisted. It was almost like a tumbler. He just like twisted it. And I was like, there you go. You drink out of this one.
Yeah, but Padme gets poisoned, bro. And I
She
know you're a
does.
big
She
Padme
drinks it.
fan. Was this a rough for you, see?
It was rough. It was rough mainly because, like, I feel like she was doing my boy Anakin dirty, He was like, who's this guy? And she's like, nobody. And it just doesn't say anything, and they clearly have this history. And it's like, girl, like, and I get it. Like, maybe he truly means nothing to her, which is why she's like, hey, just drop it. It's nothing. Like, it's not a concern. You have nothing to be worried about. You're the chosen one. Of course, I'm going to be with you. You know what I mean?
Bro.
But it's like, she was keeping it in secret. And it's like, yo, what's up? Like, come on now. I don't know. You know, he's got to trust her. So they have Padme and Clovis have dinner. One thing I thought was funny was he was like, my compliments to the droid instead of like the chef.
I did think about that. I was like, that's a very like futuristic term, man. Like,
yeah. But then we have Padme, who says she's not feeling well, asks Clovis to get her a drink. She is there to do the mission, and she realizes that the audio cue to unlock the plans was Padme. So clearly this guy he's not forgotten. She must have been putting it down.
She must have been an amazing ex.
I mean, with all these fembots around and he's still just like, Padme, like, she got to be doing something. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, also think about it. He's a senator, so he's at Coruscant. So he's got all the Harrison Dulas. He's got all the Sabine Wrens, the entire galaxy. Like,
it's that
that was the one part that I was like, it's funny. Like, it works for the story, but at the same time, I'm like,
you want what you can't have. You know what I mean?
I just like flipping this back to reality, right? Like, if you were going to use a password to hide secret mission stuff, you're going to use your ex-girlfriend's name?
No. Oh God.
Unless it's like she who shall not be named.
That's a real good way to put that. Are you going to use your ex-girlfriend's name?
Yeah. Yeah. What's your pin? Yes. Oh, it's my ex-girlfriend's birthday.
Just ex-girlfriend. Yeah.
Well, that girl really did a number, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so yeah, she basically finds out it's a passcode, gets the base plans for the new droid factory, and then basically the guy catches her, and he's kind of an idiot, because he's like, what are you doing in here? And she's like, oh, nothing, I'm just need a glass of water, or just kind of just pulled off the, I don't know. Now I'm putting myself in the situation, and I'm like, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have been blinded by Natalie Portman.
She threw herself at him, you know?
Yeah, Anakin.
She's like, "Give me your hand." Yeah, I know, that's the thing. Anakin pulled up, and he was like, "Dang!" And so then she drop the disc?
Yeah,
for the hologram, and then Anakin like force catches it and pulls it to himself, runs out to R2 and gives it to him. You know, Padme ends up passing out, and then Clovis runs up to Lot Dot and was like, "Hey, we gotta save her." And he's like, "You're so stupid. She's clearly a Republic spy." And he's like, "What? No. She's not a Republic spy. What do you mean?" So then he like confronts her. Sure enough, she's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm a spy. Okay, I'm doing it for the Republic, and you're a traitor. You're a filthy traitor working with these separatists." And he's like, "Yeah."
Also, did you poison me? Because I don't feel good.
Like, well, he knew that she was poisoned.
That's so
which is why he tried to get help from them.
Yeah.
But we got Anakin showing up, and he's like, hey, get your hands off my girl, boy.
Yeah. And even then, nobody knew it was Anakin Skywalker.
You know what? Maybe this episode was stupid.
That's what I'm saying. This wasn't the episode for me, man. Like, this was...
Yeah, okay.
Anakin gets the antidote.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm running through it quickly because there's really not much to it, you know? He gets the antidote from Lot Dot with the help of Clovis.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, Anakin kind of just does him dirty, you know?
That was my favorite moment of this show. Like, of this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I saved her. Can I get that holodisc back? And he's like, no. And I'm sure you can find your own way out. I'm confident you will survive.
Yeah. Which also is like the beginning of a perfect villain. Like, you left me on that planet, Anakin. I'm gonna get my revenge. Like,
dang. And so, okay, maybe that does explain a little bit of this. So right at the end of the episode, Clovis turns around and it's Lot Dot, and he's like, you know, we need to talk. And then you have all these droids that raise their weapons at him, and as he's like walking towards them, and I'm like, and it just cuts to credits, and I'm like, yo, were they gonna like execute him right then and there, like, or were they really just like bringing him in to talk? Like,
I don't know.
what do you think?
They gotta execute him. 100%.
Just right there, like it just
right
it was, because I was like, yo, what? They were raising their guns like they were ready to fire. I was like, oh snap.
Would you be interested in like more Trade Federation stuff?
So yeah, we'll get into that with this next episode, but the events of this show so far, I've been real excited because it's a lot of stuff that I really wanted to see. I mean, not necessarily this episode, but I love like seeing. I love the prequel era. I just really do. The Trade Federation intrigues me. The droids have always intrigued me, and I've always just thought they were super cool. Obviously, with them outnumbering, even the clones, but like it was just so interesting to me. And yeah, anytime they go deeper into like the Trade Federation, I'm always like interested in it, because as many times as they are defeated, they constantly are just right back in it, causing some other chaos somewhere else. So
yeah, I'd be interested to see like a I don't know why when you mention like they basically pulled their guns and it's like, did they execute them? It's like I would love to see like a almost like a Godfather like mobster esque take on the Trade Federation, where it's just like if you
okay.
betray us, you're dead, like mafia style. Like, but that's probably not even what the Trade Federation was like. But I'd be into it.
So you just want some like Italian guy, just like, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding,
asking me for a favor. I have a terrible accent for that. Yours isn't bad. Yours is pretty good. Mine's real bad.
Mine's gonna get me canceled. So let's move to the second episode.
Episode 5.
Episode 5, Landing at Point Rain, so far for season 2, best episode yet.
Dude, absolutely the best episode so far. And like, obviously we saw the first season like a while ago, and I'm pretty sure this is my favorite episode to date. I may be wrong. I may have to go back and like, check out season 1 again. But so far I'm like, yo, this episode was everything I'm wanting out of the show.
I agree. Yeah. The Jedi come back to Geonosis, where it all began.
I love Geonosis. Always have. I loved it in like the Battlefront games. I loved it in the movie. Like, it's just one of those planets where it was very interesting to me, because it's just very different with these bug creatures, the Geonosians. So, I mean, they're putting up a good fight against the Republic. Ahsoka and Anakin, comparing what was it, confirmed kills? Was it like a space battle that they had just come from?
Yeah.
And they were confirming
Gimli and Legolas. Like,
that's exactly what it reminded me of, which I loved, actually. Like, as cheesy as it may be, I loved it because it's showing that dynamic between the two of them, that because it's so crazy to me when I think that Anakin has an apprentice, because the whole time, even through watching the movies, I was always like, he's the Padawan. And then it's like, to think that he had an apprentice is like crazy to me, because I always felt like he was still, I guess, immature.
Yeah.
Even though he had to mature quickly, I just still feel like there was immaturities about him. One of those things where it's like a young person who's seen so much war and things like that, you forget how young they really are sometimes. So
yeah, no, for sure. So I had to write down the names because obviously you got Anakin, you got Obiwan, you got Ahsoka, and then was it Kiadi
Mundi, I believe.
Yeah,
is the
the
name.
dude that all we saw in the original prequels was him getting mowed down during Order 66. So it was kind of cool to see him in action. I was like, hey, let's go.
It was. And that's what I'm loving about this too, is a lot of these characters you saw in the movies, them bringing light to them. Even like Kit Fisto is what, like, barely in the live action, but he's like super cool in this show. And Plo Koon, same thing. Like, I think it's awesome. I love that they're giving you more background a little bit on the characters and seeing them in action, things like that. But we have them defending the foundry on Geonosis, which I'm assuming it's the same foundry that was found from their like secret spy mission the episode before.
That would be my guess. That they're like, oh, we got to go after it. These probably two are tied.
So, have you seen the movie 300?
Yeah.
So the hot gates where they like funneled all the Persians into the small opening.
I didn't know it was called hot gates, but okay.
It was called the hot gates. That's what they called it. And I'm like, yo, that's what this was essentially. They're like, oh, 3 of us are going to take battalions and go down this tiny enclosed area. And I'm like, that seems like a bad idea. Like, it was like the Jedi are just so overconfident. Yeah. And I loved Palpatine being part of the conversation, like planning the attack. I'm assuming he's just turning around and giving the info to the separatists.
Oh, yeah. And he just calls me. He's like, hey, they're coming. They were here. Like, that's been the balance that I've always found very, very funny about, like, this whole era is that you got one dude working both sides of the scenes. And where he's like, this is finally going to be the thing that overthrows the Republic. And then the Jedi pull out a miraculous win. And he's like, gosh darn it. Like,
what more do I need? I had the game plan. Like,
yeah.
And what doesn't, like, to me, it's like, I don't know. Obviously, Palpatine did a miraculous job of pulling one over on the Jedi, the whole Jedi Order, because it's like, how many times is he part of these plannings? And then it's like, they knew our every move, but they don't think like who was part of that process that maybe we should look out for now.
There's a great TikTok that I saw like a couple months ago that was talking about how Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, when Walter White gets away, he's like, no, he can't keep getting away with it. And he's just like melting down. And there's a scene where Palpatine in Clone Wars is like, a separatist threat with the Sith? This is impossible. And he acts like he's so dumbfounded. And it cuts to Jesse and he's like, no, he can't keep getting away with this. Like, that's exactly what it is. It's just like, but yeah. So anyway, they launched this re-invasion on Geonosis and it's a disaster. Like everybody's ship blows up. Everybody's going crazy. And there was a moment where like Kenobi's ship crashes, Kiadi's ship crashes, Anakin and Ahsoka's ship crashes, and you're just seeing clone troopers' bodies explode all over the place. And I was wondering, we just got done watching Ahsoka. If you haven't watched Tano Cast, go back, watch it back. In the World Between Worlds, I'm feeling like this was the scene that Ahsoka transported back to, because it was like a desert planet. There was all these dead clone troopers around her. And I was like, is this the moment we're seeing right here? Like, is this one of them?
Dang. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my comment was essentially going to relate to that. First off, the visuals, dude, on the whole invasion sequence, I was like, this is beautiful. Like, it looks so good. And I was just like, this is what I want to freaking see, man. Like, all these attacks, this whole episode was just so visually just amazing.
Yeah.
And we've talked before about how much we love those, what are they, ATTEs or something like that?
Yeah.
The walkers.
Yeah.
And like seeing those being dropped in and everything, it was just like, oh man, I was just this whole episode, I was just so happy and so excited. Yeah, you had Kiadi, it was like, there's no such thing as luck, and they all start getting shot down. You got that clone trooper that's like, it's a good thing these bugs can't aim, and then just get blown up immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that live action Clone Wars thing, it's such a good point, because it really felt like that. Like you said, it really wasn't going their way. And it seemed a lot like that in that episode, in the World Between Worlds. But also, when that episode came out and me and you discussed, a question that we asked each other was, do we want to see more live action of that stuff? And we were both like, hell yeah. And there was a comment from somebody that said, no, just watch Clone Wars. Like, don't remake stuff, just watch Clone Wars. And I was like, I finally understood. I was like, this episode right here, I was like, if stuff's like this, like this episode's making me realize what they meant by that, because
Mhm.
this episode was so good and the battle sequences were just, they've been my favorite so far in the entire show, this episode.
But, and this is a Kim Kardashian size butt here. You're telling me if this episode was live action, it wouldn't be just a little bit cooler?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the part that I come back to is I'm like, yeah, I agree. Clone Wars is a masterpiece. Like, it's a great show. But if you gave me Hayden Christensen, Rosario Dawson,
Okay.
Obiwan,
All right. Forget everything I just said.
yeah, no. I think it's a valid. I think it's very good because the point is, like, this episode was fantastic. Like,
It was.
the invasion scene was great. The battle scenes were great. There was like a Helm's Deep style scene where like Anakin and Ahsoka are coming up the wall, and then they're fighting droids off the roof of them, or off the roof of the wall. And I was just like, this episode had everything, man. Like, it was so action packed, and it continued. And the good news is like, yes, we don't get this like every single episode in Clone Wars, but there's plenty more things like this throughout the season. And it's just like, it reminds you that this is war. Like, this is a
Mhm.
war movie. And it was so cool. Like, we're jumping ahead obviously and jumping around, but the cave scene where Kiadi is taking his men through the caves and the Geonosians are like coming down from the ceiling and grabbing them and taking them away. I'm like, dude, this feels like a horror movie. Like,
It did.
it was so sick. And I was like, I would deal with just a short film live action of that, and I would be totally cool, you know?
Yeah. So one thing that really hit me hard this episode was we get a moment with these two clone troopers called Waxer and Boyle,
Okay.
and they are tasked by Commander Cody to go find and save Obiwan. And they get to the ship and they open it up, and he's like, this is where the fun begins. And he's like, oh no, fun begins, trying to get back. So they open it up, and Obi-Wan's just so excited to see them, and he's obviously injured from the ship that crashed. And these clones are just putting their lives on the line for him. Like, they don't owe him nothing, but they are putting their lives on the line. And just knowing that at the end of it all, Order 66, they just turn on them like it's nothing, is just so freaking sad to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like barely in this show, but seeing the connections in the battles with the clones and everything that they went through together with like the Jedi, only for it to the end result to be that, I'm just like, I get goosebumps, and it like makes it so much sadder. Like, because obviously it was a sad moment in the live action movie when that part happened, but now that we're seeing more of like the Kiadi and all these other people, I'm just like, holy cow, man, these freaking clones were just putting everything on the line,
Yeah.
just to turn around and be like, okay, Order 66, got it. Bah, 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 bah. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow, brainwashing.
There was a meme that I saw that was so perfect about that captured it, that goes, watching Star Wars as a kid and being like, oh, the clone troopers are dope, and then watching it as an adult realizing that it was all for nothing.
So
That like the clones literally at the end of the war were just tossed out. Like, they fought this entire war for nothing. Like
that, and that's what I guess I just maybe don't fully understand is like, execute Order 66. That is said, and they all knew what it meant. So this entire time when they're putting their lives on the line to save these Jedi, knowing what Order 66 is and just waiting for the moment, like, do they just know that, or
all right, I'm gonna stop you there because you're
okay?
getting into very massive spoiler territory.
Okay.
And I could ruin it for you, and I could tell you right now, but I'm also going to put it out to the community and anybody listening. Don't you dare spoil this. Don't you
Okay.
dare spoil
So
the
it will
payoff.
be answered then.
It will be, yes.
Okay. That
Yes.
makes me happy to know.
Yes.
Cool.
And it is such a, I mean, it's a payoff that makes sense. It's good. I think it's season 4 as we start to get into that. And it's one of those, it's like, I was in the same boat as you, man. I was in the same boat being like, I don't understand how these guys could turn evil. And I remember even talking with you and Brendan about it in the first season. And I'm like, I have a really hard time understanding how Anakin turns evil, because you see him as like this fatherly, like brotherly figure to Ahsoka throughout the entire show, and you're just like, how does he turn evil? Like, how does he go from there to slaying kids? Like, I just don't get it. But with the clones, 100% makes sense. 100%.
I get it. I get why he's murdering younglings.
Yeah.
Ah,
Another
but
scene
yeah,
I really loved in this episode was Anakin and Ahsoka are on the top of like we're just gonna say Helm's Deep right now, and
right.
they're like fighting these droids, and then droidicas come up, and they're blocking the bullets, and then I think it's Rex comes up with his pistol, and he just pushes the pistol through the barrier and pulls the trigger and point blanks a droidica, and I was just like, that was badass. I was like, that was one of the sickest things ever, dude.
And what's crazy about that too is there was twice where even Anakin like slid in under a droidica and then like deactivated his lightsaber, then reactivated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that really gives you an interesting sense to what those force shields are, because it's like they can run through it no problem, but a blaster cannot go through it from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
or seemingly a lightsaber. But once you're in, then you can. So it just kind of puts a weird perspective on those force shields. But yeah, those two scenes, that whole scene was, like I said, this whole episode was so great. And seeing the battles and everything, all the fighting, everything that was going on, like you said, even the next scene with Kiadi going through the tunnels, like it fully felt like a horror movie, them coming in. And one thing I noticed too is, and I don't think it was until that part in the cave where those Geonosians have those guns that I freaking love the sound of, the like that weird noise it makes. But when it was hitting the clone troopers, it looks like it was like straight up just disintegrating them. Like, is that?
I didn't pick up on that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, I saw it happen like once, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, it looked, they just kind of like melted into nothing. And I was like, and then it like happened a couple more times, and I'm like, do I need to rewind that? And I wish I had, because I was like, holy cow! It looked like it was just turning them into like just atoms, like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang, man, like that's terrifying. Imagine fighting in some sort of battle. Like, obviously getting shot by anything sounds terrifying enough, but to be just shot by something and you just disintegrate into nothing, yikes.
Do you think if you were to get shot by a blaster, it also cauterizes the wound?
That's what I always wondered. Like,
Same thing with lightsabers, right?
yeah.
So
good.
in theory, like you could stab somebody anywhere, and it would cauterize the wounds.
Yeah.
You're not going to bleed out. Like,
never bleed out.
yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't die from blood loss, but you would die from wherever it punctured, maybe.
Yeah. Kidney failure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Kiadi is going through the cave. He's leading his men. Anakin and Ahsoka are leading their men to the rally point. Obiwan and the entire like battalion are like, it's kind of like an old school like cowboy Indian shootout where like they literally have all the wagons circled up, and like the Geonosins are circling them, and the clones are like doing their last stand, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, reinforcements here, and you just see bombers come in and just drop bombs on the enemy, and then everybody's kind of brought back together in this moment, and I was like, oh, we're good. And this is legit where I thought the episode was going to end. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to go into a cliffhanger, but I was not fully prepared for the second half of this battle. And again, it was so epic. Like, I don't know. I felt like this entire episode was the entire way, just going up, and then at the final moment it just plateaued, and I was like, whew, I need a cigarette after that episode, man. I was like, it's so freaking good.
No, I mean, it was a quick sequence of them going in and destroying the shield generators, but it was well done, and it was quick. They just did such a good job, going in and going to the foundry, taking down the shield generators, having the tank successfully destroy the shield generators. Like, it was a cool scene. My favorite part though was the ending where Ahsoka's like, so Master Anakin, like how many did you get? And he's like, not now, Snips. And she's like, come on,
show some decorum,
come on.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, all right, 55. And she's like, I got 60, I win. And he's like, well, I called in the airstrike. She's like, oh, okay, cool, real mature. And so then they're all talking and everything, and then freaking Mundi's like, 65.
Yeah.
Anakin's like, what? And he's like, I had 65. What do I win?
Yeah.
Like, bitch, what do I win?
Yeah.
And he's like, my respect. Like,
yeah.
What did he say? It wasn't respect. Was it respect?
I don't remember. I don't remember what the what his final line was. I did
Admiration
get
or
a
something
kick
like
out of
that.
him being like, "Oh, I won." Like
Yeah.
the other thing I really liked in this scene was when they were like charging into the shield generator, and like Anakin's charging in with the 501st, and I was just like, "Dude, this Legion is so freaking intense." Just like, God, I love this show. It's so good, man. It's so good.
So let me ask you this: what do you rank the 2 episodes?
I think obviously, we doing it like out of a 10 or out of a 5, or what are you thinking?
I was just thinking, like, which ones?
Oh,
Maybe we should do out of 10 because obviously 5 was way better than 4.
yeah.
I think we both can agree on that.
So I'm gonna say if we're doing like out of 10 stars, right?
Okay.
Landing at Point Pain or Point Rain would probably get an 8.2 out of 10, and then Senate Spy I would give a 5 out of 10.
After seeing the 5th episode, I would give the 4th episode a 6 out of 10. It wasn't bad. Like I said, I didn't hate it. Honestly, episode 5 was 10 out of 10 for me. I can't think of anything that happened in that entire episode that I was like, I loved everything.
You know what we didn't even talk about?
What's that?
And it was a great moment in the show was that like they're all talking about this battle, right? It's a Kiadi, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan, and they're all like fighting in front of like this hologram table, and then they cut over to one of the other Jedis, and they're like, "Can we get back to like doing this invasion, and you guys just stop this?" And I was just like, that captures it perfectly. Like the dynamic between these 3 characters is so bonkers.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Fair enough.
So, but yeah,
Good
man,
episode.
Yeah, very good episode. And
What
also,
do we have coming up? We got 3 more?
yeah, we got 3 more. Next week's episode is going to be episode 6, 7, 8.
Nice.
I
I'm so
have
excited
no
we're doing this. Like, I've just been enjoying this Clone Wars so much so far, and I just know that hearing from people that just gets better and better, and I'm like, that's so exciting to me.
Yeah, it's all uphill from here, man. Like it gets so good. So, episode 6 is called Weapons Factory. Master Luminara and Anakin's plan to create a diversion on the droid factory comes into effect so that their Padawans can sneak inside and destroy the factory. Season 2, episode 7 is called Legacy of Terror. Obi-Wan and Anakin face a tough battle through the Geonosian drones to find Luminara, who has been taken captive to their queen. And then season 2, episode 8 is called Brain Invaders. So this looks like this will be a 3-episode story arc about the Battle of Geonosis. So
Nice.
yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, and of course, as always, let us know your guys' thoughts on this week's episode of Clonecast, and also if you watch the episodes, how did you rank them? And yeah, keep us posted.
Let us know.
What you
Let
guys
us
are liking.
know anything this episode that we didn't mention. Just let us
Hey,
know.
we're coming in a little early on this one, and I was curious, what'd you think of Five Nights at Freddy's?
I loved it.
Did you?
I did, and
Okay.
it might be because I read some things that were like, it got a terrible score on Rotten Tomatoes, and critics like hated it. Like a 40% or something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess there's been like other people that just haven't been a big fan of it, and I'm wondering if I was the perfect audience because I know what it is, and I feel like maybe some of the critics were like, I don't know what the heck this is, but I'm also not super diehard fan.
Okay.
So I'm like in that middle, and so I think like me watching it, I enjoyed it a lot. My daughter loved it too, but it's like I know what it is, so I could understand somebody watching it and being like, what the heck is it? Animatronics? Like, what in the world? Like, that's ridiculous. Or diehards are like, oh, that shouldn't have happened, or things like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I liked it a lot, appreciated it. A little spooky, I'd say.
Okay.
Because that's been the hardest thing is people are like, oh, is it scary? And I'm like, what's scary to you? I'm not sure what's scary to you.
Yeah.
I will say, like, watching it with my 13-year-old daughter, the worst part was probably when you go and watch a horror movie in theaters, all they have is the trailers for other horror movies. So, like, in the beginning, like, my daughter's looking at me and she's like, that looks scary. And I'm like, yeah, because I've been trying to ease her into like horror movies. So, but it was good. It was really good movie. I feel like, I definitely say go check it out.
Yeah, I watched it on Peacock.
Oh, you already saw it?
And yeah, we watched it last night. I fell asleep during it.
That bad for you?
Yeah, it was that bad. I did not
What?
enjoy the movie, man.
Wow.
Now here's the thing. I was going in expecting to be terrified. Like I was wanting it to be,
Okay.
because like I look at Five Nights at Freddy's, and when you look at when that game came out, that generation is now the generation of kids wanting to go see horror movies and be scared. So I was like, they have a really cool opportunity here to take something that was like playfully scary, although the game was freaking terrifying. And it's still terrifying to this date. Like, but also make it a terrifying movie. And I felt like they went the Goosebumps route, which is perfectly fine. Like when you capture it as like a Goosebumps style movie, it's perfectly fine. It's just not what I was wanting from it. And that was the part where I was disappointed. I was just like, you could have made such a fantastic horror movie. Like you look at like Alien, right? You got this chick stuck in outer space being chased down by this alien that you don't know what it looks like, but it's climbing through the fence. Like something like that with Five Nights at Freddy's would have been dope for me. I'd have been like, oh, that's kind of what I wanted. But like, I don't know. It lost me. There was a line that made me laugh so freaking hard where so spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, there's this police officer and like this main character, and the main character brings his sister to Freddy Fazbear's, and she's like, if you bring your daughter here again, I'm gonna shoot you in the face. And I laughed so freaking hard at that line, dude.
That line was pretty bad. I will agree.
It was so aggressive for the scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's definitely a good movie, but I'm just like, oh, I wanted it to be so much scarier. But
So this might also be why I enjoyed it more than you.
okay,
Is I saw it in a movie theater,
ah,
and I saw it opening night with a bunch of people that were real excited to see the movie.
yeah,
And I feel like the theater as a whole really enjoyed the movie, and that
okay,
made like that line, everybody was laughing super hard, like at the ridiculousness of it.
yeah,
And so like I could see you being at home being like, that was dumb,
yeah.
and not really having anybody else to share that with. But like in the theater where everybody just knows that was a ridiculous line, like maybe that's part of what could be it. But
100%, 100%.
like I said, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie of all time, but I think I went in with very low expectations.
Yeah,
It sounds like you were going in with high expectations because you were hoping that they were just going to do something really awesome. For me, I just read that it was terrible and it was awful and it was terrible, and I was like, well, I'm just going with my daughter, should be fun. And then I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought.
yeah,
I've definitely been on that side with you where I'm like, oh, they can do this, they can do that. And then I see the movie and I'm like, God, that sucked.
yeah.
Why didn't they could have done it so much better? But it's like when you go in with high expectations, you can easily be disappointed. So I understand that.
Yeah, man, it was still cool. Like it was cool how they captured it. They did a lot of
You
fan
fell
service.
asleep.
I did.
that
I did.
speaks to it. I've only fallen asleep in 2 movies. One was The Happening, worst movie I've ever seen. The second one was Cars 2, I think.
Have they made a third one?
They did. The third one wasn't bad. Second one, awful.
Second one was China
With Mayor.
Asia?
Yeah, they went to like Tokyo or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bad
It
movie.
was so bad. It was,
Yeah,
it was
that
so
was a
bad.
bad movie. Anyway,
Thank you for coming to our
yeah, thanks for coming to our TED Talk. We'll see you guys next week. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Always.